The towering glass building of Apex Industries sparkled under the morning sun, a beacon of wealth and power in the heart of the city. Inside, however, the atmosphere was anything but calm. On the top floor, CEO Richard Turner paced back and forth in the conference room, tugging at his silk tie as sweat gathered at his brow. "Where the hell is the translator?" he snapped at his assistant, who flinched. "They called from the airport, sir," the assistant stammered. "There's been a lockdown. No flights in or out. They're stuck." Richard swore under his breath. Perfect. Just perfect. Across the sleek mahogany table sat a delegation of Japanese executives, their posture rigid and polite, their faces betraying no emotion as they spoke softly among themselves in their native language. This was supposed to be the most important meeting of Richard's career, the deal that would open the Asian markets to Apex Industries and secure a multi-million-dollar partnership. But without the translator, he was floundering. Richard tried to break the silence. Good morning," he said with exaggerated slowness, as though volume and speed might bridge the language gap. The lead executive nodded stiffly, replying in Japanese. Richard smiled awkwardly, having no idea what was said. Pulling out his phone, he fumbled with a translation app. "We want to work with you," he muttered into the microphone. The app spat out a mechanical voice in Japanese, but the visitors frowned, clearly puzzled. At the back of the room, Maya Jenkins pushed her mother's cleaning cart quietly down the hallway. Her mother, Denise, had worked nights at Apex Industries for years, scrubbing floors and emptying trash, while Maya often accompanied her after school to finish her homework in quiet corners of the building. Now 19, Maya had come to help her mom during her spring break. As she stopped near the conference room to collect a trash bin, she couldn't help but overhear the awkward exchange. The tension in the room was palpable. The American CEO looked like he was drowning, while the Japanese guests exchanged uneasy glances. Maya's stomach turned. "They're blowing it," she thought. She hesitated. Her Japanese wasn't perfect, but she had taken 4 years of it in high school and another year in college. She understood enough to know what was being lost in translation, or rather, not translated at all. Her heart pounded. Should I say something? She glanced at her mother scrubbing nearby, then back at the high-stakes meeting unraveling before her eyes. If I don't speak up, this deal is over. Taking a deep breath, Maya gripped the edge of her cleaning cart and stepped forward. Maya's palms were clammy as she pushed her mother's cleaning cart forward, each squeak of the wheels louder than her own pounding heartbeat. She could feel dozens of eyes on her, the sharp gaze of the CEO, the curious stares of the Japanese executives, and the wide-eyed disbelief of her mother, Denise, who froze mid-swipe with her mop. "Excuse me," Maya said softly, her voice nearly drowned out by the hum of the air conditioner. Richard Turner spun around, his brow furrowed. "What are you doing in here?" "This is a closed meeting," he barked. Maya hesitated but stood her ground. "Sir, I couldn't help but overhear. You're struggling because the translator didn't make it, right?" Richard's nostrils flared as he shot a glance at his assistant, whose panicked expression confirmed the obvious. "What's your point? You're the janitor's kid, aren't you?" "Yes, sir," Maya replied, her voice steadier now. "But I also studied Japanese for 5 years. I'm not a professional translator, but I can help you understand each other." For a moment, silence gripped the room. One of the Japanese executives tilted his head, his sharp eyes assessing her. He spoke quietly to his colleagues in Japanese. "Interesting," he murmured. "She seems young, but her accent is correct." Maya caught the words and offered a polite bow. "Sumimasen," she said in Japanese, her pronunciation careful but confident. "Excuse me. Would it be acceptable if I assisted as an interpreter?" The executives exchanged surprised looks. One smiled faintly. "That would be appreciated." Richard blinked in disbelief. You speak their language?" "Yes, sir," Maya replied. "I can help, if you'll let me." The CEO hesitated, his pride caught between desperation and doubt. But as he looked back at the Japanese delegation, whose faces had softened slightly at Maya's words, he realized he had no other choice. "Fine," Richard said, stepping aside. "But don't mess this up. This deal is worth millions." Maya nodded. She walked to the center of the room, her hands trembling slightly as she turned to face the visitors. With calm precision, she began translating Richard's stumbling words into smooth, respectful Japanese. As the conversation resumed, the tension in the room began to ease. The executives sat straighter, their eyes warming as they spoke more openly. For the first time that morning, the meeting wasn't falling apart. And for the first time in her life, Maya felt like her voice actually mattered. The air in the room felt different now. The sharp tension that had been choking the meeting was dissolving with every word Maya translated. She stood poised between the two groups, her voice calm and measured as she bridged the language gap with surprising ease. Richard Turner sat back in his chair, watching in disbelief. Just minutes earlier, he had been floundering in front of the Japanese executives, certain they would walk out and take their lucrative deal with them. Now, the visitors were leaning forward, their once stiff expressions softening as Maya carried the conversation with respectful fluency. "She's incredible," whispered Richard's assistant, unable to look away. The lead Japanese executive, a silver-haired man named Mr. Tanaka, smiled faintly as he addressed Maya in his native tongue. "Your grasp of our language is admirable, young lady. Where did you study?" Maya bowed slightly, keeping her tone humble. "In high school and at community college, sir. I've always admired Japanese culture and wanted to understand it better." Tanaka nodded approvingly. "You not only speak well but listen carefully. That is rare." She translated his words for Richard, who cleared his throat awkwardly. "Tell him, we're honored to work with partners who value precision and respect." When Maya relayed this, Tanaka's smile deepened. He responded with a short proverb in Japanese. "A single arrow is easily broken, a bundle of arrows is strong." Maya's eyes lit up with recognition. "He means we're stronger together, sir." "Tell him we agree wholeheartedly," Richard said, trying to sound composed despite the pounding in his chest. The room felt warmer now. Laughter broke out when one of the younger executives made a light-hearted comment about American coffee being too weak. Maya translated with a slight grin, and even Richard chuckled nervously. For the first time in the meeting, the gap between cultures didn't feel like a chasm. As Maya continued to guide the discussion, Richard's thoughts raced. This girl just saved us from disaster. She's doing what no one else here could. But he didn't yet realize, she wasn't just saving the meeting. She was about to close the deal herself. The meeting was nearing its breaking point, not because it was failing, but because the momentum had shifted so far in Apex Industries' favor that Richard Turner could hardly keep up. The Japanese executives were speaking faster now, their voices animated, their guarded expressions replaced with genuine engagement. At the center of it all stood Maya, her posture steady, her voice flowing smoothly between English and Japanese. She wasn't just translating anymore, she was negotiating. She caught subtle inflections, adjusted Richard's blunt phrasing to something more culturally respectful, and even added moments of warmth that drew nods and small smiles from the visiting delegation. "Mr. Tanaka says they had concerns about Apex's environmental policies," Maya said calmly. Richard started to panic. We have a new initiative," he stammered. "But it's not finalized yet." Maya turned back to the executives. In perfect Japanese, she spoke with a confidence that surprised even herself. "My CEO understands your concerns and is committed to aligning with your standards. We are currently restructuring our policies to ensure a long-term partnership that reflects your values." Tanaka's eyebrows rose in surprise. He leaned toward his colleagues and murmured, "She speaks like someone who belongs at this table." When Maya translated his words for Richard, the CEO's jaw tightened, a mix of shock and admiration flooding his face. Then, with a calm grace, Tanaka reached into his briefcase and pulled out a contract. "We are ready to sign," he said in Japanese. Maya's eyes widened as she translated. "Sir, they're agreeing to the deal." Richard froze, then shot to his feet. "You're serious? You'll sign?" "Yes," Tanaka replied in halting English. Because of her, we understand your vision." As the room erupted into polite applause, Richard turned to Maya, his face pale. You just saved $1 million contract." Maya took a small step back, suddenly aware of how surreal this all felt. "I just wanted to help," she said quietly. 2 days later, Apex Industries gathered its entire staff in the sleek glass lobby. Employees whispered and speculated, unsure why the CEO had called a company-wide meeting on such short notice. Richard Turner stepped onto the stage, microphone in hand. Behind him, a massive screen displayed the words, "Celebrating an unexpected hero." 2 days ago, Richard began, his voice strong. This company was on the brink of losing the biggest deal of our year. A partnership worth over $1 million was about to walk out the door, because we couldn't communicate. The crowd murmured, confused. And then, Richard continued, someone stepped forward. Not an executive. Not a manager. Not even one of our team members. It was Maya Jenkins, the daughter of our janitor. Gasps rippled through the crowd as Richard gestured to Maya, who stood off to the side, nervously clutching her mother's hand. She didn't just translate, Richard said. She led. She spoke with such skill and understanding that she convinced one of the toughest delegations in the world to trust us. Because of her, this company is stronger today. The employees erupted into applause. Denise Jenkins, tears streaming down her cheeks, pulled Maya into a tight hug. Richard stepped forward and handed Maya an envelope. This is a scholarship to finish your education. And when you graduate, there's a job waiting for you here, not as a janitor's daughter, but as part of this company's future. Maya blinked back tears as the crowd cheered louder. For years, she and her mother had been invisible in these halls. Today, she stood in the spotlight, not as someone cleaning up after others, but as the girl who closed $1 million deal and changed the trajectory of her life.